So let's create the second section in our main container. F7 to create a new blank keyframe, and now go into our Illustrator file where we have our design prepared, and I'll just copy and paste the object that we have here, a group actually, because this will make it a bit easier on us because we already have it all designed. We don't have to really worry about anything. We'll go double click to go inside of the group, break apart all of this text and the image, and only leave the background as a drawing object. So let's select all of it now and F8, and let's say project panel. And let's export that for ActionScript because we're going to add it through ActionScript with a for loop, and that'll allow us later to change the content in this text, and also select the image and load it from the server. So dynamic text, let's make it multi-line down here, behavior, okay, and we'll name it later when we get to XML, and we'll start working with this more closely. Right now all we need it to be is actually exported movie clip, which we can now access and add through ActionScript. And right here we'll create a for loop. So this will be the second frame of our main container, and we have a stop here, so it doesn't it doesn't go to the second frame by default. Let's create a for loop. For var I number equals 0, I is less, and let's make 5 right now, I plus plus. So we have a for loop, and in this for loop we're going to add these project panels. So var project panel class project panel equals new project panel. And now let's change the x property of it. Dot x equals I times, let's say, project panel dot width plus 10, and let's put that into brackets so that 10 doesn't get added to the whole series of objects, but to each one, so we have a spacing, something like a margin. Okay, we need to add it, of course. Project panel. And also let's go here to the first frame and uncomment this go to and stop to, and that's only to have something to look at on this second frame. So now that we go into navigation and prepare the clicking and changing of these sections, we'll actually see the difference, and we'll have a new content added on this second frame. And let's also add stop just to be safe. Okay, so we have our panels loaded up right away, and that's the simple part. We'll also add the scrolling and the clicking functionality and all that, obviously. So that part right now we have prepared. Now we need to go into our navigation to start playing and switching between these different frames, removing everything, animating it in and out. Let's first of all just go through the logic of things, and there's a problem down here. Cannot access property or method of null object reference on frame. The problem is in our positioning, of course, because we are trying to position the main container that is right now not there. So we'll fix all of that right now, because we're going to add a bunch of booleans to check which section is actually on, and enable or disable this positioning accordingly. So first of all, let's go back to our main container, and let's just remove this go to and stop to, so we can work with that. Okay, so we're back to our regular layout. Now when we click on a button, we want to animate this content out. When it's animated out, at that exact point we want to remove everything from this main container, change it with different content, and we'll do that by switching to another frame inside of the main container, and then animate it back in. So to do that, we'll require animate out function, animate in function, and remove all children from our main container function. So we don't have to specify exactly what we want to remove from the main container. We can always just run that one function, remove all children, and we're going to remove all of the contents of our main container. So let's first of all create the remove all children. Void, open and close. And this will run right before it actually changes the frame to our to whichever button we have pressed. And this is a cool little trick, so we can use a kind of a counter. So uint equals main container dot num children, and now we'll create a while loop, and we'll go k minus minus. That'll go from the number of children to 0 and remove all of the children on the way. So if we use our main container now and say remove child at, say k, that is going to remove all of the children from our main container movie clip. Let's go into our on nav click, and that has to happen again exactly when it animates out. So let's also create a function animate out, and we're going to animate out the whole main container. So we already have the, no we don't, over here we don't. So let's import first the import, let's import the greensock library, so com.greensock.tween_light, because we'll animate it out right now, and we'll use something simple for now. Might want to change it later. So first of all, it's the tween_light.to, and we want to animate main container. So 0.4, and we can easily change all of that later, right? Let's say x stage.stage width and alpha to 0. So it'll kind of tween out softly into 0 alpha and move to the right. Let's create an animate in, like that. Alpha to 1, and I think we can just delete this one. Main container 04, and we'll trigger that animate in when this one completes. So that'll be on complete, animate in. Okay, so when animate out is done, we'll animate back in. And let's go into our on click and just run this animate out just to check if everything's working as it should be. Here we go. Run it. We click on a button and it's working. And let's go out and check it in the external player again. This internal player, at least on my computer, is not as it should be. Cool. So that's a very, very basic kind of transitioning, but you can really go nuts over here and use these tweening functions from Greensock to animate whatever property you want, and create any kind of custom tweening out and tweening in. For the purposes of this screencast, we'll just use this. Maybe we'll enhance it a bit later if I get any cool ideas. But it's not the point to create awesome transitions, just to demonstrate how the system works. Okay. So the next thing we need is exactly at this point again. Okay. So the next thing we need is exactly at this point again when we animate in. So exactly when this 0.4 seconds expires, we want to remove all children. So let's put that into animate in, because that's the exact point where we're going to remove all children, and now we can't see anything, right? Because obviously all the children are gone. And right after removing everything, we'll switch to frame 2. And we'll do that by checking the name of our clicked button. And over here we take the I of the for loop and we store it into the name property of each button. So each button will have a unique identifier from 0 to 3 that we'll be able to use to identify which button we've just clicked and then run the appropriate actions. So we'll store in the onNavClick function, we'll store this nav item.name, which we'll access through evttarget.name into a special variable, and that way we'll be able to know which section we've just selected, run the appropriate action, and just keep the whole site functioning as it should be, appropriate to which button we've just clicked. Let's go up here and with our initial variables create another variable, var selected section number 0. By default it is 0, right? So by default we are on the main page, which is 0, and then whenever we click right here, we'll actually give it selected section equals evt.target.name. And let's also put a number around here so we don't have any issues later. Selected section, okay. And when we animate in, we'll say go to and stop, and that would be in the main container. Selected section +1, because frames go from 1 to 3 to 4. The name of our button is from 0 to 3. We have to add 1 in order to get to the correct frame in our main container. So let's click, and here we go. And if we check it in the external player, we can see that it's all working exactly like we want it to work. Okay, so now we have our navigation node fixed up. We have our rollover and rollout functions written inside of our navigation item, so our nav item. Then we have our click event listener added in the for loop that adds all of our buttons. And also we've created an object which stores the reference to the previous and the current object we're working with, so we can actually lower the previous one and keep the new one in line, remove all the event listeners and so on. Okay, we'll now focus on the featured work section, so on these panels, and we'll create the scrolling functions and also the ability to click on any of these panels and have the full project panel load up with the image and additional information. Okay, so let's do that.